Welcome and thanks for joining us for today's webinar on using integrated tools to improve IT services management. I'm Mark Smith on the government marketing team and I'll be the host for today's event. I'd like to introduce Sean Martinez, a sales engineer on the SolarWinds government team. He'll be presenting our content today. Sean, please take it from here and I'll be back after the demo to help with a Q&A at the end of the webcast.
Great, thank you so much, Mark. As you mentioned, my name is Sean Martinez, and I'm the sales engineer or also the technical account manager here at SolarWinds. I've been supporting SolarWinds tools, and especially some of the tools here for well over 15, 20 years here that we'll be covering today. So when we talk about today with the agenda here, we're going to be covering a lot around the IT service management lifecycle. So talking about ticketing, basic ticket, web help desk, or I always say help desk type supportability features. Now, especially when we talk about help desk, when I was not only just a help desk tech, but also as a help desk manager, not only are we having to usually fight the frontline fires, but also help us to prioritize, make sure tickets don't fall through the cracks. So we'll be making sure that we cover all those with the web help desk as well as through our Dameware products. And especially we'll be definitely doing some demonstration because as much as we like to do with the products, definitely want to show you some of the capabilities here. Now, as I mentioned with the SolarWinds products, we were actually founded around in 1999, originally as a Y2K help resolution system, but definitely going into monitoring networks, monitoring systems. Also around that time frame, Dameware was supported on Windows 98 SE. I was actually utilizing it in 99 as that type of supportability for help desk type features. Now at SolarWinds as a whole, we have over 56 different products that cover a lot of different areas around the portfolio of IT or your IT facets. So whether you are a help desk manager, a help desk technician, let's say you focus around system side, whether it's supporting servers, workstations, supporting applications, supporting virtualization, storage, we have a lot of different products in a lot of different areas to definitely focus and help you resolve all those features here with our products. And we have a lot of customers that utilize this, over 300,000 customers all around the world. Almost all of our Fortune 500 companies are utilizing us, not only just for monitoring, but also seeing, and doing front-end troubleshooting and ticketing systems. And also we have a very large community with our THWACK, and definitely that's always where I recommend customers go to take a look at what you can kind of do outside the box, because with our systems, not only do we have the capability of monitoring what you have on-premise, but also let's say you have a hybrid IT cloud environment. So let's say you have whether it's Azure, AWS, or any type of cloud type of deployments, since all those areas have been blurred, we do have the technologies and the capabilities of not only supporting, but also deploying into cloud type deployments. Now, like I mentioned, with the different facets and the areas of what SolarWinds and what we cover, we have definitely the network side, application and systems management. We definitely have a security tier because once you identify all your systems, we definitely want to make sure we have similar configurations or similar patching levels. Also making sure that we have login event management covered. There's also monitoring databases for all of your relational database performance. And then at the end of the day, we all have the basic end user tools, which is actually what we're going to be focusing on here is, like I said, the front end, whenever someone calls in saying, I have a problem with printing, Outlook, I have a problem with that application. It's nice to be able to send, I wish I could just send all my techs out on site to go resolve the problems, but that's where we have our ticketing system like Web Help Desk to help prioritize our issues, but also the Dameware to help give us that remote ability, supportability, so that if customers are, whether they're a quick walk down the hallway or they're several hours by trip or flight, we can still support them like they're just in front of us. So when we talk about IT service and the management lifecycle here, it's always interesting when we talk about when talking about help desk or help desk lifecycle, because we're always, like I said, we're always fighting the fires or fighting what kind of comes through our front door. So obviously when that happens, we want to make sure that we want to have not only just the ability of us, walking through this cycle of identifying, resolving, and then having all this workflow of, fixing the issue, but also making sure, like I mentioned at the end of the day, we don't want to have issues fall through the cracks, because usually as much as we always want to say that it doesn't happen, it's always those one or two cases where it has someone high profile or some sort of high visibility, which then we're having to go figure out how where's the issue? Is it something in our process, in our people, in our tools, something that we needed to utilize to better support our end users at the end of the day. So, whether they call in, they send in a ticket online, we need to definitely be able to create a ticket, assign it to a technician or the correct team correctly and promptly so that they can go identify, resolve the tickets. In that way, they can then communicate to the end user that it has been resolved, so that way we can then obtain customer feedback or, then work through the next best issues. So definitely when we talk about this in Lifecycle, I'm making sure to cover this through our demonstration too. Now, like I mentioned with our tools, the three we're going to be covering today is the Web Help Desk, which is our ticketing product, our IT assets, but it's also our IT assets management product tool as well, since it has the capability of doing tickets, but also has the capability of collecting all of your assets. So whether that's a physical system, sometimes we cared about like what desktops or workstations were sitting in front of that user, or even down to what peripherals do they have connected, what type of monitors and model information, serial number information, all that can be collected in the Web Help Desk. Dameware is a great remote supportability tool. It's fully supported for your Windows and your Linux Unix systems, since it has the capability of doing end user troubleshooting remote sessions like you're right there in front of them. Now, especially with these three tools, these all kind of do integrate with one another, because at the end of the day, like I said, especially with help desk or ticketing, some of those frontline people will be the ones supporting your workstations or your servers, and so just be aware we'll be talking a little about those integrations. But here with the Web Help Desk, the Web Help Desk is definitely supported around your ticket creation, but also, like I mentioned, making sure we don't have tickets fall through the cracks. It actually has areas covered so that if a ticket is not updated or is not closed within a specific time frame, we can then be notified before we miss that source line agreement. So the manager or even the technician could be notified saying, hey, we see that you have not updated this case or not made any new notes in 1, 3, 5 days, or whatever the priority of the request type is. So then we need to make sure that you have updated or this issue is not falling through the cracks. So that's definitely one of the first issues that we definitely make sure to cover is those making sure that the tickets are being addressed, escalated, and they're also you can set your service line agreement alerts in the system. Also, the ability for you to set up a parent-child relationship in the ticketing system. So let's say that we hire a new technician or a new user, and they're coming in on Monday. Well, we know that they need to have a new system image. We know that they need to have an Active Directory account created. Maybe there's also additional mailbox settings we need to set up, share areas. So that's one of the nice areas with the Web Help Desk product is you can create little projects so that whenever those new users or people are leaving, they can then automatically field multiple cases and then have that all kind of fill up together. There's also, within all this ticketing information, we're always going to be giving you a lot of reportability information, so letting you know how many open cases are assigned per group, per technician, also how long those cases were open, and a little bit more information about, ticket information. And of course, all this information is, really, it's a great self-service portal, because not only does the technician have the ability of going and updating the cases, but even the end user has the ability of going to check on their case status. I always say one of the biggest issues as a help desk manager was that you'd always have a small percentage of your phone calls just as follow-ups for the people saying, hey, this is my case number, what's the current status, what's currently going on with this, maybe because it's a procurement issue, or it's because we are requiring contractors or something on site to be built, and so we know that these might take weeks or months. And so the Web Help Desk gives the end user the accessibility of seeing where their case is, and also giving the technician the ability of giving them notes without having them to always call in constantly. So that will also help with our frontline people. And like I mentioned, this does integrate with Dameware, the remote support tool. So one of the things that you can do is actually take screenshots, but also update the case notes in the system, and they'll all kind of talk back to each other within the ticketing product. And then this fully supports Active Directory and LDAP, so that way you can have your clients or users, when they log in, they'll automatically see it's specific to their user or their group. Now, changing sites here from the ticketing over to the remote supportability, this is where we have the Dameware products. There is the Dameware mini remote control, and then the Dameware remote support tool. Now, the differences between these two tools is with the mini remote support tool, this is where I usually had all my tier 1 people would utilize this product, because if they called in saying, I'm having an issue printing an issue with my mail system or a website or an application, what we could do is bring up a mini remote control session. We just go log into their system, see what the user's seeing, and not only we would resolve the issue, but also by educating the user, we figured out that it would actually resolve not only the ticket, but also follow-up calls as well. And so that's where this really helps, is it takes us kind of a little bit step further of not only identifying the problem, but also not only just resolving, but also educating the user, because we can see what they see and we can kind of give them some communication. But also, let's say if we lose a phone access, there's chat, so we can send and receive text. We can also send and receive files through the mini remote control, so that as I'm maybe pushing an update to that system, it's very easy for me to right-click and send that file to that open session to them. They be able to send and receive those files. I do that all the time for not only just my help desk supportability, but also all my virtual machines on my my Hyper-V or VMware infrastructure, because I don't want to have remote desktop available, since there was that 0-day vulnerability out earlier this year with the Microsoft remote desktop. So by utilizing the Dameware mini remote control and its agents, that gives us that supportability. Also, it's certified as well, so it can use SIP cryptography to encrypt and talk through the connection. And it's also designed too for satellite latent connections, because you can actually set how often do we want to update the screen, but also how do we want to compress this data going across that line. Especially with satellite links having a 600 plus millisecond latency, high latency, low throughput, that gives remote support sessions a very big issue. So giving you that flexibility for that access does help you as well. Now, moving from mini remote control to the remote support tool, now the remote support does include the mini remote control, but the remote support tool is what I consider more for my sysadmins or my tier 2, tier 3 people, because it gives us the ability of not only giving the remote sessions, but also giving accessibility without having a remote session into those systems. So let's say that I need to make registry changes. I need to make sure maybe what's installed on the printers, drive information, open files, open shares. You can actually access all that information through remote support without bringing up that remote session. So I can actually make those registry changes, create, remove services, stop processes without taking that over that user's screen. So it's invisible to the user, and I'm just taking all those actions from that there in the system. So again, this is a great administration for that, for the workstations and servers. Also, it does include some RSAT tools from Active Directory, so you can do some Active Directory management accessibility as well. And now with both the Dameware products, we do also include a little an application for iOS and Android devices. So with this, there's also a centralized or a mobile gateway that's a proxy available. So that way, in case you do want to do, sometimes I do want to support or fix a server when I'm, working remotely. So you can do that if you need to. Now, with all this information here, technically talking about, these IT service requests, the whole idea with, especially with the web help desk and the Dameware products, is obviously to help us eliminate a lot of the complexity around the help desk and around help desk management. At the end of the day, no matter what, as a help desk manager, we have to process issues going in and out. So whether that is going, I had to do paper tickets at one time. So we, Excel spreadsheet, you create those couple of fields, and then you're printing it out, cutting them up, strips, and have those users fill that out. That is literally the version .1 of a ticketing system. Moving into something where you have the ability of setting some sort of prioritization and also grouping, and also the ability of us going to take a look at reportability, because having paper tickets or having any ticketing system is only as good as that reportability, making sure that are we improving our processes, and what can we help do to improve that process. And that's where we also include a feedback system, because if we don't get some sort of a feedback loop from the customers, how do we know we're doing good, better, or worse until we're waiting for that negative feedback? So that does help us to definitely lower the time of resolution of tickets, because one of the biggest issues I had as a help desk manager is that every user feels that their ticket priority is urgent or critical. And so one of the first things we can do in our ticketing system is remove that prioritization, and based upon what they set in the request type, that will dictate the request prioritization for us automatically. They don't understand that, when everything becomes critical, nothing is critical. So by having that ability of removing those request types, but also having the ability of auto-escalating because maybe they are a special user or special role, we have that ability in the ticketing system to help prioritize and reduce your time of resolution, definitely help you with your operational costs, because at the end of the day, I always say customer service and satisfaction, you always hear that out of your end users. They'll always be coming over to your desk or calling you up. You definitely hear it when you ever get that there's a difference between resolving the issue and educating the issue. You always hear that a little bit better out of your customers overall. So definitely going to jump over the demo here real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and change screens here. So here, what I brought up in here real quick, this is the first, actually, let me bring up all of our websites in here. So first part we're going to bring up here is Web Help Desk. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to walk us through a little bit through the online demo. The reason is so that you can go back to this later on at any time. You can actually go under webhelpdesk.com. Under demo, there's going to be links taking you straight over to both sides of the demo, one for the technician side, but also for the end user. So first what we're going to do is take a look at, actually the best one in here, let's take a look at what the end user would select, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to have users be able to create cases or create some sort of issue resolution, through our system. And so first off, that's where, the ability of the users being able to go log into this web console to be able to, set request types. There's also the ability so that if they send an email to an email box, they can also open that request, or even as the technician, they can go and create these requests. But the whole idea in the request is to have the request type, but also help you give you some information so that if there's any problems, we're going to be giving you some fields in here. There's actually going to be giving you the option of giving you specific fields. Like I mentioned, here we can set priority as a user, but as a manager, I never want that to happen. So one of the things that we can do is as we change these requests, all these fields can be customized so that we can remove this location or this priority field. Or maybe with this being a IT request, because maybe they want to buy, let's see here, IT project, right? Maybe they want to buy or purchase some information, some additional devices. We want to add or request some additional, where's this funding coming from? Here, this is a procurement request. So who's it being expensed to? Who's the manager? You can see we can actually make some requirement fields in here so that these requests can all be specific to that request type, and so that that all that information is being tracked in the product. Now, once the tickets are created, like I mentioned, one of the other issues is, customers calling to say, what's going on with my case, where is it right now? But as the end user, they can go to their history to see all those cases, all the ones that are assigned to them or opened, and then they can actually see, well, this case that I have is open, what's the current status of it? And is it currently open? What tech is currently working on it? So we can actually see all this information in the ticket. Also, another one is I opened the case. I didn't realize that the internet was down across the country. So it's not an issue anymore. Please cancel that ticket. They can very easily now do that without calling the team. Taking out more resources and more time. So they can do that all there on demand. One of the other areas is also a full pitting approval system. So as the procurement, or I want this ticket to go through some sort of multiple process, as an end user, without consuming a technician license, they can actually approve cases or tickets. So if there was like a let's say that we want to sit down at a round table once a week or twice a month to go over procurements or new requests. Here, as a manager, I can take a look at these requests that come in, and then as a manager, I can see, I can make notes, annotate it for approval or to decline, and there's also a multi-step process too. So let's say we need to go through multiple managers, and one or two is a veto process is in that chain. You can create that and have that available in the system. Now, under the other area in here, under the end user, there's also the frequently asked questions. So we can also look up the KB system. take a look at some of those cases. Also, whenever they fill out the request type, they'll also automatically sort and filter based upon the request type. There's also any mass messages, so if we know that, hey, be aware that the web server will be down for upgrade, mail server upgrade, firewall upgrades. We're doing those pretty constantly right now, so we know that we're taking down our network for an hour or two for hardware swaps. So those can also be messages that could be sent out to all users, certain subsets, and also have certain time frames. And these will actually be messages that will actually be here at the top center, letting them know about these issues before they hopefully go to request that case. Because the whole end of the day is we want to reduce the requests, the flood of requests. So that definitely helps you at the end user level. Here, clicking on the user icon actually helps you. It flips us from the end user or the tech side. So that's how I kind of flip this over here. You can also go under our demo, under that tech demo, which will also take you to this page in here. Now, in this page, web help desk, this first page, this is obviously showing us all the tickets that are assigned to the group. But if I need to focus on just the tickets that are assigned just to myself, there's also just that one filter in here. There's also a quick dashboard as well. So as a manager, let's say I need to go ahead and take more of an aggregational view of all the tickets at more of a glance. So between my system side, my help desk side, my network side, maybe I need to see, how many tickets are open versus closed, how many, are there any that have currently gone into one of those service line agreement alerts? Are there any new activity or new changes? And these are all interactive too, so I can see what tickets are under desktop support. Well, here's a full output right here, and I can say, well, that looks great. You can actually export these all on the fly. So that's kind of one of those nice features, but also a link taking you into that case because maybe I'm doing some case auditing. When as a manager, we're not only checking on that feedback, but we're constantly making sure that these cases are being worked properly, assigned to the correct group. Maybe we see that this needs to be escalated, or it was completely misrouted completely. So as the help desk manager, one of the things I could do is go take a look at the notes, see the request, and say, well, you know what, this is not an IT request area, or this is not for software, this is more for hardware support. And sending it under, for mobile devices. Well, because of that, maybe we need to send it to a different team. What's nice here is that with other products, you'd have to memorize who that tech was. With the Web Help Desk, we automatically keep those associations so that if that tech is not in that group, it can go reassign it for you automatically. Or let's say we need to escalate it, move it up from tier 1, 2, or 3, or de-escalate it down the chain because I've worked on the big issue. Just go make sure to do some quick cleanup before we close this case. So you can do those types of escalation and de-escalations and keep that all in here. There's also the full notes. So as I'm doing notes, typing new info, I can keep all that information in here, but also link it or create it to a frequently asked question. Because like I said, with the FAQs, you can have those assigned to a request type and have those available to the front end user so that hopefully we can resolve quick issues without creating cases. So you could actually have that, you can link that back or create one. And as a manager, we can also set an approval process before that's actually published to, internal only or internal and external combination. There's other areas of also marking how much time you spent. You can also set billing rate, do file attachments. There's also full audit history so we can see what actions were taken. Did we send an email? It does let you know if there was an email issue being sent. And then, like I mentioned, there's other areas talking about the service line agreements. So with this ticket being urgent, we know this ticket should be updated or closed within a specific time frame. So that's one of the areas in our setup is that you have that functionality of going under the tickets, under the different status types or request types. And under each request type, you can then set those different fields in here. You can also set up different areas like lead technician surveys. So you can do a lot of different segmentation about how we want to kind of break out all these different tickets. There's also a lot of customization around fields, different areas. So if you do want to take this a little bit more outside the box, you can create those and also give customers quick informational about what do these fields mean to us, especially when you create a yes/no checkbox or drop down or radial buttons. You can create some additional information for all those tickets. So the other information we also include with all of your tickets too is the asset or the device. So if we actually go back into the case, there's an asset tab so we can see the system, but also the client so we can actually see the user. So let's say that I know that I'm going to be going on site next week and I haven't seen this site for several weeks or months. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at all their maybe this person recently closed tickets. You can see all the tickets based upon this one user right here very quickly, or all their other open tickets. So I need to see, like, are there other ones I can also possibly resolve at that same time frame. One of the other areas that's also covered is asset parts and billing. So if I need to replace toner, mouse, hard drives, replacing hard drives was always a big issue once the device got over 3 years, but I need to have a backstop of hard drives. But my help desk manager never gave us that budget inventory. So I can actually go ahead and keep all those parts in here, and we'll actually increment the parts for you so that there is a problem. You can actually keep those parts in that ticket history for you. So just be aware that's one of those options. We also give you full asset information, like I mentioned. So with all those devices, whether it's a workstation, a server, a laptop, you can have all those tickets and ticket information assigned to that device. So here, by looking at this one desktop, I can see were there any current or past tickets, especially if I need to know if there was maybe a habitual problem with this model. Talking earlier, I was deployed overseas in an area where we actually had a model manufacturing issue where we lost 75 desktops in the span of 96 hours. And so that's one of the issues, is that once you start having these systemic issues of mass outages, we're then having to figure out, is it a model specific issue? Well, where's that model deployed? Well, who is the battle captain, or is our intelligence, how many of those devices, because those are obviously our high priority, or our commanding general, or our executive teams, who are the ones that might be first impacted, that we know no matter what hour or what time of day, someone's got to be there to support them right now. So that helps us to take you outside the box there and help figure out what other devices could be supported. Now, if we do need to go other areas like remote desktop, remote access, we do give you not only accessibility in the assets of setting up and setting all the serial numbers, but also giving you a link to do a video remote control session or remote desktop session, or even VNC with your Windows, Linux, Unix systems. So that's one of the things, is that this actually gives you a link. It's a link pop-up, so it'll actually go ahead and run the Dameware agent to that asset, and go ahead and do a connected integration in there. And like I mentioned, in our admin guide, we actually have more information about doing these links, because they'll go ahead and create a VNC session or a remote desktop session to those devices automatically. Now, in here in the tickets, one of the last areas I'd like to definitely cover is the reportability, because once we work the tickets, we close the tickets, we need to make sure that are these tickets worked in a certain time frame. So we definitely have the ability for you to create your own custom reports. You can run these on demand or at any time. There's bar chart, line chart, pie charts, but at the end of the day, there's always a tabular report, so I can see what were those tickets. I can click on the number, and it'll go ahead and give me those ticket output right there, which I can then export to Excel if I need to manipulate it, or click on that link, take me right into that ticket right at that time. So just be aware that you can always jump from start from my ticket, start from the group, start from the dashboard, or even go in the report, jump right over into that ticket at any time to go see what's going on with those tickets, and also go start working on these issues. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the tickets, we have all those different request types and priorities. So like I mentioned, with our ticket priorities, these are some of the defaults we can give you with low, medium, high, urgent, critical. But one of the things that you have in here are these alert levels. So this is where those service line agreements fall in, but where the crack, where we're basically sealing up the cracks, making sure they're not becoming a problem. Because if the ticket doesn't get assigned or doesn't get updated or completed in that time frame, I need to have it send an email to the technician, the supervisor, or the group manager. And so that's one of the nice areas in here is before due date. So, maybe an hour or 30 minutes before that due date of that service line agreement, I need an email sent out to that technician or supervisor letting them know, hey, we're about to miss this, this ticket or this problem. So that's a great area in here to help make sure that those aren't a problem for you. So that's kind of one of the areas you can definitely take advantage of. Also under here, like I mentioned, whenever you do the request types, there's that default priority. So you can actually, set that priority for the user. So like I mentioned, that way not all tickets coming in are all urgent. They're now being assigned correctly based upon the request type or who it's coming from. Because under the under the processes under here, there's also the action rules. So one of those action rules could be, let's say it's a CEO or someone that's high level, based upon their email address, we want them to automatically change the priority to critical, maybe assign it to his special few technicians or his assistants, but also send an email to the manager. So those are all accessibility action rules that can be all taken automatically as some sort of process because of email or other fields that you want to select for filtering on. Like I mentioned, if you have a new employee, you can have it so that there's multiple different tickets created and updated so that they have all these actions available to you to then create all these different these processes. Now, if you do happen to have any ticketing system already today, the nice thing is that we do make this very easy for you to move into because you can always go into the import area and you can literally import even your tickets, because you can go into the import area, download the CSV or Excel spreadsheet for the template, and import your old ticket numbers. Also, any of the frequently asked questions, parts, inventory, clients, locations, and assets. So all those can be imported, or there's also discovery. We have a discovery through our network performance monitor, which is the or the Orion platform. So if you're using Network Performance Monitor, Server and Application Monitor, Virtualization Manager, we can talk to those for assets to see what's connected. We can also connect to any relational database because you can also do an asset discovery based upon talking through that database through network WMI discovery to get a lot of this asset inventory information. So that's what we try to do is make it as simple as possible, definitely move over. I've actually had a couple of customers, definitely through our evaluation process, actually move their customers successfully over to a ticketing product, this ticketing product. Now, moving from the web help desk, let's say that we need to do some end user support. So they've already called me and I need to go support that end user. So this is where I could definitely bring up the Dameware Mini Remote Control. What's nice about the Dameware Mini Remote Control is that it gives us a lot of supportability features. Like I mentioned, at the end of the day, it lets us see what the end user is seeing. So I can select or search for a system. I create my remote session, and now I'm already remoted into that server or that workstation. So with this, I can do other areas like bring up, control alt, delete. Let's say I'm doing this as a user, but I need the end user to stop moving his mouse and keyboard. I've now locked them out so that I can do all my commands to do everything else in here. Now let's say I need to move some files around. So let's say I need to move this file between the system. I can right click and move this between these two. It transfers the file and then it's now moved over into its own folder. You see, I can do this quite often, so I'm sending and receiving files to and from those devices pretty often, which is nice because then I can do quick updates. I'm not having to create a share. It's just a quick right-click, send and receive that file for that accessibility. There's also additional options in here, so once the file is transferred, we can automatically disconnect. There's also the supportability function in here so that whenever you do the remote sessions, there's also group policy settings and other settings so that you can actually disable those contact options. Whenever you right-click on the system, there's all these different settings in here for these security areas. So if you do go into the configure of the file or of the user, you can do things like limiting what they can actually see or what they can access. There's a lot of different accessibility authentication options in here. One of the things I do in my system is I set up my default, I'm always going to use my default, or here I'm using my ADM, my administrator accounts. You can set this in here. If I have smart card, I can just do my, if you have the default certificate, you can just do just the PIN number. If you have multiple certificates, you can type in either the username or the 10-digit number and your PIN number to then associate to the correct certificate on that smart card. So that makes that nice too, because then I can do a smart card session, and once I'm connected, there is actually the send smart card logon. So then once I'm connected through smart card, I can then remotely send my certificate and PIN to that remote system like I'm there with my card inserted automatically. So that's also one of those supportability functions, is that you can have that smart card function. Now, if I do need to discover, there's a full MRC here, so it can do a quick layer 2 discovery. I'm doing a VPN right now, so that I made sure no one can see those systems. But you can always click to add on a custom system at any time, or just do a quick connection in the system. And then we can connect through whether it's the Dameware Agent. There's also Windows Remote Desktop. There's also VNC, and then if your system is Intel vPro, you can also do Intel AMT for that KVM for connecting, even when the system is under UEFI BIOS space it's set up. So that's also one of those additional settings. I always use the agent because with the agent I have security settings. When I actually go, I'll just double click on this system here. It'll say it's initiating desktop, and I'm now in the system doing its actions. Now, one of the other accessibility rules I set up in here is that every time I connect, it gives me a notification letting the user know, say, hey, this person just logged in on your machine, so I can give them that notification. Now, under the settings of the agent, you can also, there's a lot of different areas in here for accessibility, security. Let's say that I want to make sure that before this person, let's say this is a workstation, and I want to make sure that this is all done with a permission required. That can be done through the system. If you actually go on our Google SolarWinds Dameware Security, I actually have a THWACK post that covers utilizing all this agent in here, because right here it says in parentheses, H-key local machine. So these are actually registry settings that we're actually setting. So you can actually set these up. It'll set a registry file for you. And what I actually do is I use this through group policy deployments, or whenever you actually create a new Dameware mini remote control session, you can also click to install service, and it can also include that configuration file. So you have two options of how you want to do that deployment installation option. That's fully up to you. But under some of the other areas is that simple child transfer. You can disable those. You can also limit access, so only my administrators can connect, only certain groups. How do I want my permissions to be accessible? Do I want automatic timeouts? Do I want to automatically lock the workstation when I disconnect? Maybe because I know this is a remote system several hours away, and I know that they might see the screen, and if it disconnects, it'll automatically do your Windows R. So that's kind of a nice option. Let's see here. There's also different discovery settings. So how is that discovery? Like I mentioned, that layer 2 discovery, how is it seen? So all those settings are set up in the system. Now, as the end user, they'll never have access to those because they'll actually be invisible. But they can always click on it to see who's connected. And you can also see as the user, you can actually turn this off. I can also force a disconnect. So you can say user was disconnected because of this user. And then there's always a reconnection, so I can always reconnect if I need to, or take a look at my past history. So there's all these different actions that we can do, but also with the Dameware mini remote control and with a centralized server, we can also do an initiation request too. So if the user is maybe at a hotel, maybe they're outside the network, they're not VPN'd in locally, we can have them go to a URL or site and connect to us, so that way we can then go help hopefully resolve that system, get back that to our network. So those are all different options. Now, leaving from the Dameware mini remote control over the remote support tool, so like I mentioned, with the Dameware remote support, it automatically includes the Dameware mini remote control. What it includes in addition is this application here, this remote support application. So this allows me to very quickly look at my entire domain. It also gives me a similar view of what I'd see in RSAT tools. So by going under Active Directory users' computers, I'm now at the organizational level, so I can take a look at my organizational unit numbers, my names, take a look at all their system properties. Let's say I want to take a look at this cluster here. I can see all those systems and to see if they're online or are they connected. And then I can do other information like I want to take a look at all those drives. Well, this one's a SQL server, so I need to take a look at all those various drives to see free space, white space, what's in use and what's available. Maybe I need to take a look at printers because there's a problem with that they said there was a problem printing. Maybe I need to see all the running processes on the system. I can see very quickly without remote desktop in and taking over that system, or because I didn't want users to remote desktop into my SQL server or my domain controller, where all my data resides, you can then better limit those accessibility so that they can only run these certain actions. Here I can do registry, so I can do regedit. I'm now in let's go to H-key local machine. I can go into software. Where is it? I go into system, software, Microsoft. That's usually like Windows NT. You go into your standard chain of going to supportability, and you can go as far as we need to down the rabbit hole of finding all those registry values. And then if we still need to create, modify, delete, we have that accessibility from here, so we're not having to take over that system. Like I mentioned, create small registry roles. We can do it all from here. There's other areas too. So if we do need to do a main remote control session, I can double click and start that main remote control session remotely. Also install or check services. So I can see all those services and see what's going on. Maybe this one's not needed anymore, so I need to remove that service. Maybe I can't remote desktop into the system, so let me go ahead and, here, I'm going to go ahead and do an install service. I can do any service name, but you can see in here, I can also install the Dameware mini remote control remotely. And this is a great way that I actually multi-install the agents outside of group policy, is by using remote support. You can use it this way and then do one or multiple systems for that agent install. There's also the ability for you to do custom tools. So under my tools in here, there's Edit System Tools, which basically brings up everything from your System32 folder. So you can see I can do system root / System32. So once you understand the fact that I'm looking at System32's subfolders, you can create your own additional commands, sub-arguments, because maybe we know that we have the same asset, application, or tool across all of our devices. So that's a quick way we can add that accessibility quick tool onto a system on here. Yeah, there's other areas here. Ping, wake on LAN. I use this all the time, definitely to wake up my systems, because at the end of the day, sometimes it turns off. The Windows update applied. It was supposed to do an update and restart. Did an update and shut down. Well, it's time to send the magic packet out. So you can definitely do the wake on LAN, since it does keep track of that MAC address right there. You saw that I did wake, and it gave me that MAC, or it'll give you some MAC options right there. Some of the other areas I like to mention too is, let's say I need to bring up command prompts. You can actually do command prompts remotely. So you can see how I want to do the connection here. Let's let me do the systems connection. So now I can do here. Yeah, so now I can see that I'm now on a different system on here. Who am I? Yeah, you can see also what services we're under. We're running under the agent, so you can see how that's set up on there, and you have the accessibility of doing whatever actions for, whatever kind of commands we want to do. Okay, so I want to show you that action in there for those quick action options. Like I mentioned, this is a great way so that in case I do need to support customers, this is definitely something I always made sure that our help desk teams had filled it out. Was this Dameware product? Because, like I said, in case we do need to see what the user is seeing, you don't have to go, walk to their system. It's great the fact that you can see what they're seeing, educate them a little bit further outside just resolving that issue. Going back from the demo here, I just want to make sure we covered a lot of the other different areas in here, because especially with these different areas of talking about receiving, working, assigning, and resolving the tickets, that's obviously one of the challenges, is making sure we identify the ticket, the criticality, figuring out the correct team that it goes to, because the whole idea is from identifying the moment that we need to open up a ticket to the ticket that is actually resolved, we need to figure out, are there what areas that we can definitely do to help remediate or reduce a lot of those issues. And you can see, especially with ticketing, you can have that accessibility to be able to definitely streamline a lot of these different issues. You're talking about the solution. It says the Army uses SolarWinds remote support and IT troubleshooting for in systems from a central location. That's definitely one of the different ones was used, like I said, for Dameware, especially on the monitoring side, because once you monitor or identify there's an issue, we then need to go support it. And so, like I showed you through the remote support tool, we can access those systems without remotely logging in, or we can actually log in on that system to see what they see and help to resolve those issues. And then really the net result of this is to better prioritize, like I said, stop the whole tickets falling through the cracks, making sure tickets are followed up in a timely manner, making sure that there are, not only a case that at the end of the day, tickets don't stick, because we know that technicians work in 30 different ways of working tickets, but we want to make sure that the ticketing process to resolution has, some sort of flowing constant flowing capability in here. And so you can see with those alerting capabilities, you definitely have making sure that they're being updated in a timely manner. Whether it is IT or really any department, since our ticketing can kind of go outside of that too. Since you can, identify what your end user challenges are, whether it's because of a locational issue, a region issue, maybe we've had a mission change, or the fact that we have so many people going in and out because of TDY or some sort of new accountability type changes happening with our systems. So with this, making sure that tickets are constantly being updated, they're being touched or worked through, but also we're getting a positive feedback loop from all of our customers. Because with our tickets, you can update a feedback every ticket, every 5 or 10. So you have that flexibility, making sure that we can help to increase the overall productivity without having you go to repetitious issues over and over again. Yeah, their favorite product is definitely Dameware Remote Support, so I definitely support them on that one too. Now here at the end of the day, we're definitely here for questions. Let me see if I...
Yeah, Sean, let me step in and help you with the questions. So let me just remind folks to please type your questions on the right side of the panel, as several of you have already done. And if we don't have a chance to answer all the questions during the event, we will respond in writing afterwards. So Sean, the first question: in Web Help Desk, can you provide more details about automated ticket creation?
Yes. So automated ticket so for automated ticket creation, it can be done through, like I said, through the projects. So through or even through alerting. So let's say that you have a monitoring tool like our network performance monitor or any systems or network monitoring tool. Once it identifies that there's an issue of an outage or a saturation problem, we want to then, if it sustains for a problem, to then definitely create a ticket. And so whether it is through automatic email ingestion or the ability of the user going onto the website to create the ticket, there's multiple different ways for them to create the ticket or initiate that ticket process for it to then be assigned based upon the request type to the correct group or area.
Okay. This next question is, can you provide more details about configuring Web Help Desk change management?
Oh, yeah. So the change management is built all throughout the product. One of the areas, especially about the product, is it was built around ITIL. So change management, user access, auditing, audit trails, all that is built all throughout the product. So as tickets are being created, updated, assigned, closed, all that information of the change of the process is in there, but also change process. So let's say that we need to procure new devices. Let's say we need to make an infrastructure change. There's a request type system that is available for any user so that they go as an approver, say, yes, we do need to make this change, or no, maybe we need to hold back or not do this right now. So you have that accessibility.
Okay, so let's see. Does Dameware have support, does Dameware just support remote access for Windows machines?
Great question. So with Dameware, the main remote control, it has full supportability. The agent supports Windows workstations and servers. Windows 95 to 2019 or higher are fully supported on that. With your Linux Unix systems, you have VNC. You can use VNC for us to do the connection. And like I mentioned, also for any Intel vPro, if you have that set up, you can also set up for a remote session for the systems.
So Sean, there's also a few other questions here related to remote control. If you could just have a look at those.
Yep.
I think we're getting ready to move on to the more information, but I just want to give you a chance to address those issues as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So here, it's one of the questions in here was, will the remote control require end user authorization before or starting that remote control session? And that's a yes, or that's an option of a yes. So you can have it so that it automatically accepts the connection, or it can automatically prompt for the user, or prompt for request, or only prompt for request only if the user is logged in. So you do have a lot of granular options about that requestability system, so that, especially as, if someone is working on their system, they feel like there is some sort of privacy that could be requested out with that in there. Oh yeah, and then the other question here was, can they tell if the remote session is live and active? Yes, you can. So with the agents, with that little agent system window at the bottom right, it usually changes from stationary red. It'll blink red and green when it is active, but also whenever you do connect and disconnect. In the agent settings, there's also a notification pop-up. So that notification blue pop-up window that I showed earlier, that one that showed my my username and the system name I was coming from, all that is default connection details. But you can also say, coming from the help desk, or any questions, call extension this. So all those could automatically be in there in case you wanted to give that user information for those types of issues.
Okay, great. Well, that wraps up the questions. You can see here on this slide the contacts on the right side. These are the sales folks that support the various regions. So feel free to reach out to someone if you need further information. They could schedule a call or a demo or pricing or whatever else you might need. Here are some additional resources that users can use to find out information about how to use the request process, or some of the products, Dameware integration, smart card integration, some of the specifics of what Sean's addressed today. And here's a slide on how to contact us. So there's more information, and you can do online demos, download free trials, etc. There's also the sales contact information here as well. We wanted to make folks aware of what's called THWACKcamp. This is a multi-track virtual event that occurs in mid-October, and you can sign up at this URL here. There's several dozen sessions, and they get really granular or broad. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different activities you can choose from there, so please check it out and register as you see fit. And I want to thank everyone for joining today, and thanks, Sean, for an excellent demo and good content. Thanks so much.